The first thing I noticed wasn't my house. It was the silence. For months, I had dreamed about this moment while sleeping in tents, riding armored trucks, and counting the days until I could finally come home. Every lonely night ended with the same picture in my head. Olivia opening the front door, our little boy racing into my arms, a warm dinner, a kiss that made all the distance disappear. Instead, I stood on my own front porch with a duffel bag over my shoulder, staring at a dark house that looked as if nobody had been waiting for me at all. I unlocked the door with my spare key. The smell of cold food drifted through the hallway. A single lamp glowed in the kitchen. Dinner sat untouched on the table. The plates were already dry around the edges, as if they had been waiting for hours. Olivia, my voice echoed through the quiet house. Footsteps hurried across the floor upstairs. A second later, she appeared at the top of the staircase. Her face lost every bit of color. Ethan, she gripped the railing so tightly her knuckles turned white. You're home. A smile found its way onto my face anyway. I wanted to surprise you. Instead of running into my arms, she stayed where she was, almost frozen. Her eyes kept darting toward the living room before coming back to me. The pause stretched longer than it should have. Finally, she forced a smile and walked downstairs. Her hug felt light, careful, like she was afraid of getting too close. I thought you weren't coming back for another 3 weeks. The mission ended early. I kissed her forehead. I missed you. Yeah, the word barely left her lips. I missed you too. Something felt wrong. Not one thing. Everything. The warmth I remembered wasn't there. Even her heartbeat against my chest felt distant. I stepped back and looked around the room. The furniture hadn't changed. Neither had the curtains. But something important was missing. My eyes stopped on the fireplace. Every picture frame was still there. Our wedding photo wasn't. I frowned. Where's our picture? Olivia turned toward the fireplace. Oh, she brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. The frame broke. When, a few weeks ago, I was going to replace it. She smiled again. The smile never reached her eyes. I want to believe her. I really did. Months apart can make people awkward. That's what I told myself. She picked up the cold dinner. I'll warm this up. You already ate? Not yet. The answer came too quickly. While she carried the plates into the kitchen, her phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up. Ryan. Only his first name appeared before she rushed over and flipped the phone upside down. Too fast. Much too fast. I pretended not to notice. Ryan Brooks had been my closest friend since high school. When I deployed overseas, I had asked him to check on Olivia whenever she needed help. He fixed things around the house, picked up groceries, took my son to baseball practice once or twice. I trusted him like a brother. Olivia stirred the food without looking at me. You must be exhausted. I've had worse days. Another buzz. Her shoulders stiffened. She silenced the phone without reading it. You can answer. It's nothing. Ryan. She nearly dropped the spoon. Oh, he needed help with something. I waited. She didn't explain. The silence settled between us again. My stomach wasn't hungry anymore. Footsteps raced down the hallway. Daddy, a little body crashed into my legs. I laughed as Noah wrapped both arms around me. There you are. He looked so much bigger. His hair had grown longer. His smile was exactly the way I remembered. I lifted him into my arms. I missed you, buddy. I drew pictures for you. I can't wait to see them. Olivia watched us. For a second, her eyes softened. Then they filled with something else. Fear. The feeling disappeared before I could understand it. That night, I unpacked while Noah talked without stopping. School. Friends. His favorite cartoons. Normal things. The kind of things I had missed every day. Olivia stayed busy folding clothes that didn't need folding. Whenever I moved closer, she found another reason to leave the room. Later, after Noah had fallen asleep, I reached for her hand in bed. She gently pulled away. I'm tired. So am I. I smiled. But I've waited months for this. She rolled on her side. Tomorrow. The word hit harder than it should have. I lay awake long after she drifted off. Her phone vibrated again on the nightstand. She grabbed it before I could even glance toward it. The screen disappeared beneath the blanket. A faint glow lit her face. Then darkness. I closed my eyes. Trust her. She's your wife. She's just adjusting. Morning arrived with another surprise. While helping Noah get dressed, I noticed a small cut on my arm from unloading equipment before my flight home. It had become swollen overnight. Grace would have told me to stop ignoring injuries. So after breakfast, I stopped at the hospital before spending the rest of the day with my family. The doctor cleaned the wound. Nothing serious. He smiled while wrapping a fresh bandage around my arm. Just needs antibiotics. Before I left, a nurse entered carrying a clipboard. We're updating family medical records. She handed me several forms. Any inherited illnesses? I filled in my information. Then she pointed toward another section. We also recommend confirming blood relationships when updating pediatric records. It helps with future treatment if your child ever needs emergency care. I laughed softly. No problem. She explained the process. A simple cheek swab. Routine. Quick. Nothing unusual. Noah had an appointment later that afternoon, so everything could be completed together. I didn't think twice. Why would I? The test meant nothing to me. It was paperwork. Just another form to sign. A nurse collected the samples. We'll upload the results in a few days. I thanked everyone and drove home. Life almost felt normal again. Almost. Over the next 3 days, little things kept bothering me. Ryan's truck parked near my neighborhood twice. Olivia stepped outside every time her phone rang. She laughed less. She watched me more. Sometimes I caught her staring while I played with Noah. Her eyes filled with guilt before she quickly looked somewhere else. On the fourth morning, my phone buzzed. Hospital portal. New test results available. I opened a report while drinking coffee. Halfway through the first page, my smile disappeared. My eyes returned to the same sentence again. Then again. Surely I had misunderstood. My hands began shaking. The coffee slipped from my fingers and shattered across the kitchen floor. Black liquid spread around my boots. I never noticed. One line refused to move. Probability of biological paternity, 0%. The room tilted. Air refused to enter my lungs. My heartbeat pounded so loudly I couldn't hear anything else. No, that wasn't possible. There had to be a mistake. Some kind of lab error. Anything. I gripped the edge of the table to keep from falling. The report crumpled beneath my fingers as one unbearable truth echoed through my mind. I was never his father. The DNA report stayed on the kitchen table long after the coffee dried on the floor. I read it again, then again. Every word stayed exactly the same. No lab mistake. No missing page. No second chance hiding between the lines. The front door opened. Olivia walked inside carrying grocery bags. She smiled before noticing my face. What happened? I slid the report across the table. Her eyes moved over the page. The color drained from her face. One hand reached for the chair. She needed it to stay standing. Where did you get this? The hospital. Nothing else came out of me. The room suddenly felt too small. She stared at the paper without touching it. Ethan. My voice stayed calm. Calmer than I felt. Tell me it's wrong. She closed her eyes. I can't. The answer cut deeper than any bullet ever could. Every mission overseas. Every lonely birthday. Every holiday spent thousands of miles away. Every promise that I was doing this for our family. None of it mattered anymore. How long have you known? Her lips parted. No sound came out. I didn't need an answer. That silence already had one. Noah laughed upstairs while watching cartoons. The innocent sound almost broke me. I loved that little boy with everything inside me. Nothing about this changed that. But someone had stolen the truth from me. Someone I trusted more than my own life. My fingers tapped the table. Ooh, she covered her face. It wasn't supposed to happen. Ooh, the second question landed harder. Her shoulders shook. Ryan. The name echoed through the house. Ryan. My friend. The man I call my brother. The one I trusted with my family while I served overseas. A bitter laugh escaped before I could stop it. I asked him to protect my home. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I know. He did the opposite. She reached toward me. My chair moved back before her hand could touch mine. That tiny movement hurt her more than any angry shout. I never wanted this. When? It started last year. The words came slowly. I was lonely. I know. You stopped calling as much. I was in combat. I know. I waited every day. So did I. Her breathing became uneven. It wasn't planned. That makes it better. No, I just... She couldn't finish. I stood and walked into the living room. Every memory inside the house suddenly felt fake. Birthday decorations, family vacations, Christmas mornings. How many smiles had been real? How many pictures had hidden the truth? My eyes found an old photo album. Ryan stood beside us during Noah's birthday party. His arm rested across my shoulders. We both smiled at the camera. Brothers. At least that's what I believed. I opened another page. Another picture. Ryan helping Noah ride a bicycle. Another. Ryan fixing our fence. Another. Ryan holding my son while Olivia laughed beside him. My stomach turned. Later that afternoon, I quietly opened our phone account online. Months of records appeared. One number repeated over and over. Ryan. Calls after midnight. Long conversations. Messages while I was deployed. Hundreds of them. I kept scrolling. Each page hurt more than the last. The next morning, I drove across town. Ryan wasn't home. His neighbor watered flowers in the front yard. Haven't seen you in a while. I just got back. She smiled politely. Your wife and Ryan practically kept each other company while you were gone. My heart skipped. They spent a lot of time together? Oh, she hesitated. I assumed you knew. She returned to her flowers. I thanked her anyway. Every answer seemed to create 10 more questions. I stopped at a small coffee shop near Olivia's office. The cashier recognized me. Ethan, it's been forever. Good to be home. She nodded toward the window. Your wife hasn't been here recently. I frowned. She used to come often, mostly with Ryan. Another piece. Another crack. By evening I had enough. Not enough to know every detail. Enough to understand the truth. Olivia sat on the edge of our bed when I came home. She had been crying. The DNA report rested beside her. I'll tell you everything. I leaned against the doorway. I'm listening. She twisted our wedding ring around her finger. The first year you were gone wasn't so bad. A long breath escaped her. We talked every day. I remember those calls. Sometimes only 5 minutes. Sometimes less. Still, I never missed one unless duty made it impossible. Then your missions became longer. She stared at the floor. I started feeling alone. So you called Ryan. You told me to. I did. He fixed things around the house. I know. He listened. I know. Her voice became weaker. One night, I broke down. She wiped away fresh tears. He hugged me. Nothing inside me moved anymore. That was enough? No. It should have been. The room grew heavy. It happened months later. You could have stopped. I could have. You didn't. She nodded. I didn't. No excuses. No blaming me. Just the truth. Somehow that hurt even more. You kept lying after I came home. I was terrified. You kissed me. Another tear slid down her cheek. You let me hug Noah. I couldn't destroy your world. It was already destroyed. Those words stayed between us. Neither of us tried to take them back. I opened the closet. My old military duffel bag still rested on the top shelf. Dust covered the zipper. I pulled it down. What are you doing? Packing. She stood quickly. No. Shirts landed inside the bag. Jeans. A jacket. Boots. You don't have to leave. I do. We can fix this. I folded another shirt. Can you change the DNA report? Her hands trembled. No. Can you give me back the last 2 years? She couldn't answer. Can you tell me which memories belong to me and which belong to Ryan? Her knees weakened. She sat back on the bed. I still love you. The words floated across the room. I believe she meant them. That was the cruel part. Love had been there, just not enough to stop her choices. I removed my wedding ring. The circle of gold had left a pale mark on my finger. I placed it gently on the dresser. She stared at it as if it had just become heavier than stone. Please don't. I wore this through every deployment. My hand stayed above the ring for a moment. I thought it meant we were protecting the same promise. The room blurred, but I refused to cry. Not here. Not now. I picked up my phone. Ryan's contacts still sat near the top of my favorites. One tap. Delete. Another message appeared. Remove emergency contact? Yes. His name disappeared, like he never existed. Olivia watched every movement. Each one seemed to make the truth more real. I lifted the duffel bag. She followed me downstairs. You'll come back after you've had time to think. I stopped at the front door. I've been thinking ever since I read that report. Her breathing became shallow. Ethan, The sound of my name carried every bit of fear she had tried to hide. I opened the door. Cool evening air rushed inside. Behind me, our bedroom waited with one side of the bed already empty. I stepped outside. The door closed with a quiet click. Only then did she finally understand. I wasn't leaving to calm down. I wasn't leaving for a night. I wasn't coming back this time. The apartment felt empty. Not because it was small, because nobody was waiting inside. My duffel bag stayed on the floor for 2 days before I finally unpacked it. Every shirt still carried the smell of home, a home that no longer belonged to me. Sleep became a stranger. Some nights, I sat on the edge of the bed until sunrise, staring at the wall instead of closing my eyes. Whenever I managed to drift off, Noah's voice pulled me awake. "Daddy." The dream always ended before I could reach him. My phone rang every morning. "Olivia." I let it ring. Messages followed. "Please talk to me. You deserve the truth. Don't disappear like this." I read every word. I answered none of them. Grace showed up without warning on the 4th day. She carried 2 bags of groceries and one look that told me she already knew everything. "You haven't been eating." "I've been busy." She opened my refrigerator. 1 bottle of water. Half a loaf of bread. Nothing else. "So that's your dinner plan?" A weak smile crossed my face. "You always did hate my cooking." She started filling the shelves. "You survived combat." Her eyes settled on me. "Don't lose this battle because you forgot you're worth saving." Those words stayed with me long after she left. A week later, I walked into the military counseling office. Part of me wanted to turn around. Another part was tired of carrying everything alone. The counselor listened while I spoke. Not just about Olivia. About the years away. The birthdays I missed. The weight I never admitted I was carrying. "You built your whole identity around protecting other people." He folded his hands together. "Who protects you?" The question followed me home. I didn't have an answer, so I started looking for one. Every morning began before sunrise. Running, weights, training. The pain in my muscles became easier to understand than the pain inside my heart. One step, then another, day after day. Slowly, the man staring back at me in the mirror looked less broken. Work helped too. The Army had always given me purpose. Now it gave me structure. Orders were simple. Emotions weren't. One afternoon, a young private noticed the scar on my arm. "Still healing." I glanced at the bandage. "It takes time." The words weren't about my arm anymore. Grace called that evening. I found a lawyer. "I'm not ready." "You don't have to be." She paused. "But paperwork doesn't wait for broken hearts." 2 days later, I met Emma Hayes. She greeted me with a firm handshake instead of sympathy. I reviewed everything. A folder rested on her desk. "There's enough here to begin the divorce." The word landed heavily. Divorce. It sounded colder when spoken out loud. Emma noticed my hesitation. "This isn't about giving up." She pushed the folder closer. "It's about protecting your future." I opened it. Financial records, property documents, legal forms, everything my marriage had become. Ink on paper. "What if I still have questions?" "You probably always will." She leaned back. "Some questions don't have answers that bring peace." I stayed quiet. She continued. "Don't build your future around waiting for someone else's explanation." Those words felt different. Not comforting. Honest. I signed the first document. My hand shook. Not because I doubted the decision. Because I never imagined my signature would end my marriage. Back at the apartment, I opened the small drawer beside my bed. My wedding ring rested inside. The gold reflected the afternoon sunlight. Once it had been the strongest promise I ever made. Now it looked like something from another life. I closed the drawer gently, not with anger, with acceptance. A few weeks passed. The calls from Olivia became less frequent. The messages grew shorter. One afternoon, another number appeared on my screen. Ryan. I stared at his name until the call stopped. A voicemail arrived. I deleted it without listening. Whatever excuse waited inside no longer mattered. Grace visited again. This time she noticed a military medal sitting on my bookshelf. It used to hang beside framed family photos. The pictures were gone. Only the medal remained. She smiled softly. "Looks better there. It reminds me I accomplished something." "You accomplished more than that." She pointed toward me. "You're still standing." Life settled into a routine. Morning runs. Work. Therapy. Paperwork. Some days still hurt, just not every minute. Then the cracks in someone else's life began to appear. Not mine, theirs. A mutual friend stopped me after work. I heard about Ryan. I folded my arms. What about him? He quit his job. I blinked. Seriously? Money problems. The friend lowered his voice. People say he's drowning in debt. I nodded once. Nothing else. Another week passed. Then another rumor. Ryan and Olivia had been arguing in public. Neighbors heard shouting through the walls. One evening, I stopped at the grocery store. An older woman from my neighborhood recognized me. I'm sorry about everything. I thanked her politely. She sighed. Your wife doesn't smile anymore. The words followed me through every aisle. A month earlier, I would have wanted details. Now I only hoped Noah was safe. That was all that mattered. Emma called the next morning. We've received the financial records. Anything unusual? She hesitated. Quite a bit. My stomach tightened. Ryan borrowed money from Olivia. How much? Enough to create serious problems. I closed my eyes. So he used her too. It appears that way. The call ended. I sat alone in my apartment. No celebration came. No feeling of victory. Only a strange kind of peace. I finally understood something. I didn't need revenge. Life had already started collecting its own debt. Late one afternoon, I finished training and walked toward the parking lot outside the base. The sun hung low in the sky. The day had been long. A familiar figure stood beside the entrance. Olivia. She looked thinner. The confidence she once carried had disappeared. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes. She held a small wooden box against her chest with both hands. When our eyes met, she didn't move closer. Neither did I. The wind pushed a few loose strands of her hair across her face. I won't keep you long. Her voice barely carried across the parking lot. I found something. She lifted the box with trembling hands. I think it belongs to you. My heartbeat slowed. I recognized the carved lid immediately. I hadn't seen that box in years. It was the one where I kept every handwritten letter she had ever sent me while we were dating. I thought it had been lost during one of my deployments. She held it carefully, as though it carried the weight of every mistake between us. And for the first time since I walked away, I wondered what else had been buried with the truth. The small wooden box rested between us. For a long moment, neither of us reached for it. Cars passed behind Olivia. People walked across the parking lot without noticing that my entire past was sitting inside a faded box with worn edges. You kept it. My voice barely rose above the evening breeze. Almost threw it away. Her fingers tightened around the lid. I couldn't. She stepped forward and placed it into my hands. It belongs to you. The wood felt familiar. I remembered buying it years ago at a small craft fair. Back then, it held every note she slipped into my backpack before work, every birthday card, every little promise that made me believe we would always find our way back to each other. I opened it. The old letters were still there. Beneath them sat another stack. Newer envelopes. None of them had stamps. None had ever been mailed. I wrote those while you were deployed. She swallowed hard. I never sent them. I picked up the first envelope. My name stretched across the front in handwriting I could recognize anywhere. Inside, only a few lines filled the page. I miss you so much. I'm angry that you're gone. Then I hate myself for being angry because I know why you're there. Please come home before I become someone I don't recognize. My hand stopped moving. The next letter came from a month later. Ryan fixed the kitchen sink today. You told him to help us. Sometimes I wish you were the one walking through that door instead. Another. I keep pretending everything is okay. It isn't. Then another. The words became heavier. I crossed a line today. I don't know how to tell you. I already hate myself. I closed the box. Not because I had finished reading. Because I couldn't breathe. Olivia stood quietly. She wasn't trying to defend herself anymore. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. I wanted you to know I knew exactly when I destroyed our marriage. Her eyes stayed on the ground. I just didn't have the courage to tell you. A long breath escaped me. I understand how lonely you were. She lifted her head. Hope flickered across her face. I continued before she could speak. Understanding isn't the same as accepting. The hope disappeared. I know. Every letter proves you understood what you were doing. I did. You still kept going. Her shoulders dropped. I kept believing I could fix everything before you came home. You couldn't. No. She nodded slowly. I couldn't. The wind lifted one of the loose envelopes from the box. She caught it before it reached the ground. I brought these because they're the only truth I have left. What about Ryan? A bitter smile crossed her face. He's gone. Gone. He left. She laughed once. The sound carried no happiness. When the money disappeared, so did he. I frowned. What money? She closed her eyes. He borrowed from me. How much? Almost everything I had. I remembered Emma mentioning financial problems. Now the missing pieces finally fit together. He promised we'd start over together. She looked toward the road. He never planned to. You believed him. I believed the same lies you believed. Those words settled between us. Different lies. The same betrayal. A week later, I walked into the courthouse. Emma stood beside me carrying a folder. You ready? No. She smiled gently. That's usually the honest answer. Across the hallway, Olivia sat alone. Ryan wasn't there. No friends. No family. Just an exhausted woman staring at folded hands. When our case was called, we entered together. The room stayed quiet. No dramatic speeches. No shouting. Just paperwork and facts. Emma presented the financial records. These withdrawals happened while my client was deployed. Another document followed. Most of the money was transferred to Ryan Brooks. The judge reviewed each page carefully. Olivia never interrupted, never argued. When asked if the records were accurate, she gave a single nod. They are. The judge glanced up. Did anyone force these decisions? A slow shake of her head answered first. Then her voice. No. Another pause. My husband wasn't responsible for any of this. The word surprised me. She could have blamed loneliness, military life, distance, anyone. Instead, she accepted the weight herself. The hearing continued quietly. Property, accounts, legal details. Every signature erased another part of the life we had built together. Emma slid the final document toward me. I picked up the pen. The paper blurred for a second. Not because I questioned the choice. Because I remembered signing our marriage license years ago with the same hand. One signature had started everything. This one ended it. I wrote my name. The pen moved to Olivia. She stared at the line for several seconds before signing beside mine. Neither of us spoke. The judge confirmed the divorce. Just like that, we were no longer husband and wife. Outside the courtroom, Emma squeezed my shoulder. I'll finish the remaining paperwork. Thank you. She walked away, giving us space. Olivia stood a few feet from me. The hallway felt strangely peaceful. No anger remained. Only truth. She reached into her purse. My wedding ring rested in her palm. I found it in the bedroom. I looked at the gold band. She placed it carefully on a small table near the courthouse wall. I think it should stay with the past. I nodded once. It should. Neither of us touched it again. She folded her arms tightly, as though trying to hold herself together. I've been seeing Noah every week. How is he? He asks about you. A lump formed in my throat. What do you tell him? The truth. She brushed away a tear before it could fall. I tell him you love him. I do. I know. She smiled sadly. That never changed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. I realized something unexpected. The anger that had burned inside me for weeks had become smaller. Not because she deserved forgiveness. Because I no longer wanted hatred to decide who I would become. I don't hate you. Her eyes widened. You don't. No. A slow breath left me. Hating you keeps me tied to this. She lowered her head. I'll live with what I did every day. I believe you. And that's enough. She didn't ask me to come home. She didn't promise we could rebuild. At last, she understood there was nothing left to rebuild. I turned toward the courthouse steps. Behind me, her quiet voice stopped me one final time. Ethan. I faced her again. She stood alone beneath the afternoon sun. No tears. No excuses. Only honesty. Can I ask you one thing? I waited. If none of this had happened. Her voice nearly disappeared. Would you have stayed with me forever? The question reached the last untouched place inside my heart. For a moment, I wasn't standing outside a courthouse. I was back on that front porch, carrying my duffel bag, believing I was finally coming home. The sunrise became my favorite part of the day. Not because life had suddenly become easy, because every morning reminded me that darkness never stayed forever. My running shoes struck the sidewalk in a steady rhythm. One step, then another. Months earlier, I had run to escape my thoughts. Now I ran because I finally enjoyed the quiet. The city slowly woke around me. Coffee shops unlocked their doors. Street lights faded. The sky turned from gray to gold. I smiled without forcing it. That surprised me every time. Work changed too. The younger soldiers often gathered around me before deployment. They wanted advice about equipment, training, survival. One afternoon, a nervous private held a photograph of his wife. "I'm worried she'll think I don't care while I'm gone." His voice reminded me of the man I used to be. I studied the picture for a moment before handing it back. "Call whenever you can." He nodded. "I will. When you can call." I paused. "Right." He looked confused. "A letter?" "Yes." He laughed softly. "Nobody writes letters anymore." "Maybe they should." He slipped the picture into his pocket. "What if we're too busy?" I remembered all the nights I had told myself there would always be another chance. There will always be another mission. I rested a hand on his shoulder. There won't always be another chance to protect the people waiting at home. He stood a little straighter. "I understand." Watching him walk away, I hoped he truly did. Later that week, Emma invited me to lunch after finishing the last legal documents. No courthouse, no stacks of paperwork, just a quiet cafe with sunlight pouring through the windows. She smiled as I sat down. "You look different." I finally started sleeping. "I can tell." She slid a menu across the table. That's a better sign than anything I could write in a legal file. Lunch lasted longer than either of us expected. We talked about books, travel, military life, her childhood, mine. Nobody tried to rescue the other. Nobody pretended the past had never happened. The conversation felt light, honest. When the bill arrived, she folded her arms across the table. "So," a playful smile appeared. "Does this count as two professionals discussing paperwork?" I laughed. "No paperwork today." "Good." She stood. "I've had enough of divorce files to last a lifetime." We walked outside together. Neither of us rushed the moment. Neither of us named it. That felt right. Some relationships begin with excitement. Others begin with peace. Peace was enough. Olivia and I slowly found a different rhythm. Not as husband and wife. Only as two adults trying to do what was best for Noah. We met at parks, school events, doctor appointments. Our conversations stayed simple. His math grades improved. That's good. He wants to join the baseball team. I'll be there. No hidden meaning. No old arguments. One Saturday, Noah ran toward me carrying a baseball glove. "Dad, watch this." The word still caught me off guard. "Dad." The DNA report had changed biology. It hadn't erased love. He threw the ball. I caught it easily. Again. Again. His laughter filled the field. Across the grass, Olivia watched quietly. When practice ended, Noah hurried toward the snack stand. She walked over. "Thank you for coming." "I wouldn't miss it." She nodded. "I know." The conversation ended there. Nothing more needed to be added. She had changed too. Not overnight. Not through dramatic promises. Life had humbled her. The expensive jewelry was gone. The new car had disappeared. She worked longer hours now. Ryan had left behind debt, broken trust, and empty promises. She carried those consequences without blaming anyone else. One afternoon, Grace visited my apartment. She opened the bedroom closet and laughed. I remember when this was almost empty. I looked inside. Military uniforms hung beside everyday clothes. Running shoes lined the floor. Shelves held books instead of packed boxes. "It finally feels like home." She smiled. "No." She glanced around the apartment. "It finally feels like your home." There was a difference. I understood it now. That evening, I found Ryan's old number while cleaning my contacts. I had deleted his emergency contact months ago. One forgotten number still remained. No picture, just digits. My thumb rested over the screen. Delete contact. The phone asked for confirmation. I pressed it without hesitation. His name disappeared forever. No anger, no satisfaction, just another door quietly closing behind me. A few weeks later, Emma called. "I'll be near your old neighborhood." She hesitated. "Want to grab coffee?" "I'd like that." Before meeting her, I drove past the house where Olivia and I had once planned our future. The paint looked older. The flowers near the porch had faded. Somebody else would eventually live there. New memories would replace ours. I parked across the street for a few minutes. Olivia stepped outside, carrying a small box. She noticed my truck. Instead of pretending not to see me, she walked over. "I've been cleaning." She held up the box. More old things. I recognized children's drawings, holiday decorations, pieces of a life that no longer existed. She smiled gently. "I think it's time." "So do I." Neither of us cried. Neither of us reached for the past. The front door behind her stayed open. The house in front of us was only wood and brick now. Home had never been a building. It had been trust. Once that disappeared, there was nothing left to rebuild. "I hope you're happy." Her words sounded sincere. "I think I'm learning how." She nodded slowly. "I'm glad." A breeze moved between us. Not uncomfortable, just quiet. She looked toward the old porch. "I'll always regret what I did." "I know. I don't expect anything from you." "You shouldn't." Another small nod. "I just wanted you to know." I believed her. That was enough. We exchanged one final smile. Not as lovers, not even as friends, just as two people who had finally accepted the truth. She walked back toward the house. I returned to my truck. The engine started with a familiar rumble. This time, driving away didn't feel like losing something. It felt like carrying only what still belonged to me. Emma waited at the cafe, with 2 cups already on the table. "You were late." I had one last stop. She noticed something in my expression. "You okay?" I looked through the window. The sun dipped toward the horizon. For the first time in a long while, the future didn't frighten me. "I am." She smiled. "Good." We talked until the sky turned dark. No promises, no rushing, just honesty. It was the strongest foundation any relationship could have. That night, I returned to my apartment. The rooms felt warm, peaceful. The silence no longer reminded me of loss. It reminded me that I had survived. I stood by the window as the first light of another morning appeared on the horizon. Months ago, I believed my life had ended with a DNA report. I believed betrayal had stolen everything I loved. Now I knew the truth. Love without trust cannot survive. Sacrifice without respect becomes loneliness. And strength is not measured by how much pain a man can carry. It is measured by the moment he finally decides to put that pain down. I came home early expecting to surprise my wife. Instead, I discovered the truth that everyone else had hidden from me. For a long time, I believed that early flight destroyed my future. Standing beneath another sunrise, I finally understood what really happened. Coming home early did not ruin my life. It saved the rest of it.